Your jaw tightens. You stare at a glowing screen reading a long text message that twists a basic boundary into an attack. You start typing a defense. You erase it. You type it again. Your breathing is shallow, trapped in the upper part of your chest. The room is very quiet. You put the phone face down. You do not answer. When an ancient oak tree detects an incurable fungal rot in a major limb, it does not send nutrients to negotiate with the decay. It does something brutal and completely silent. It instantly walls off its own vascular tissue, severing the connection to save the entire organism. They call it ghosting. They call it a generational failure of communication. They demand an exit interview for a dynamic that has been bankrupt for years. But walking away in absolute silence is not a lack of courage. It feels more like an executive veto. You do not pour premium capital into a failing asset. The corporate world calls this quiet quitting, the conscious boundary of doing only what you are contracted to do to protect your mental peace. In your personal life, this is a nutrient embargo. Engaging with someone who is actively committed to misunderstanding you is a severe energetic hemorrhage. Think about the sheer attrition rate of this dynamic. You sit in a therapist's chair, paying out-of-pocket costs of up to $250 a session, just to decode someone else's disrespect. You spend hours drafting paragraphs in your notes app that you will never send. That is your high-value currency funding a hostile merger. The math dictates otherwise. And what is the actual return on that investment? For highly creative individuals, this silent detachment is not always about avoiding people. It is often a deliberate choice to reclaim personal space. Your mind requires vast amounts of uninterrupted quiet to function at its highest capacity. Every argument is a thief of that focus. You stop funding a deficit dynamic so you can invest your time into innovation, deep research, and new growth. The withdrawal is highly calculated. You are cutting the funding. The cultural expectation is that you are supposed to be the bigger person, to offer an explanation, to provide the final word. The pressure to have one last conversation to get closure is a trap designed to keep you engaged. In arboriculture, there is a highly advanced survival model known as CODIT, Compartmentalization of Decay in trees. Trees do not heal damaged tissue. They seal it. The human pursuit of a post-mortem analysis, that final explanatory coffee date to seek mutual understanding, is a futile attempt to heal dead wood. You meet for that final conversation. You sit across from them at a cafe, holding your coffee cup like a shield. You bring your carefully chosen words. You present your evidence, hoping that this time, the sequence of your sentences will finally unlock their empathy. And the disrespect continues. The boundary is crossed again, right there at the table. You realize you are negotiating with a brick wall. Repeated boundary crossing is the closure. The disrespect was the closure. Seeking an exit interview with a bankrupt entity does not bring peace. It keeps the vascular connection open for the toxicity to spread into healthy tissue. True closure tends to look more like the silent act of sealing the border. Sometimes walking away silently is an act of mercy. It prevents saying the hurtful things that cause unnecessary pain to both parties. It does not heal, it seals. The cost of keeping that connection open is not just emotional. It is a literal crisis inside your physiological hardware. There is clinical data on conflict that points to a very clear physical reality. According to the Gottman Institute, when a heart rate exceeds 100 beats per minute during an argument, the brain senses a threat and tends to initiate a silent shutdown. Which means the withdrawal you feel is not a petty reaction. It is biological flooding. This chronic relational stress acts like a slow leak in your system. It keeps cortisol levels unnaturally high, keeping your body in a constant state of alert, draining your baseline energy until just waking up feels exhausting. The physical intensity of that stress varies from person to person, but the visceral memory of that specific tension remains permanently recorded in your mind. You remember the exact weight of the air in the room. You did not choose the dynamic that drained you, but you are the one who can notice the drain now. Your instinct to over-explain was a survival tactic for a past environment. That environment is gone. You are funding a ghost. And then the panic passes. You make coffee, you go to work, it is just Tuesday again. People who benefit from your exhaustion label this silent walkaway as cowardice. Or rather, they label it avoidance, because it is easier than admitting they lost access. Examine the discrepancy. In botany, there is a process called abscission. It is the cellular wall that forms to force a dead leaf to drop from the branch. The outside world looks at the falling leaf and sees death. What they do not see is that creating an abscission zone requires the highest amount of biological energy an organism can produce. The silence is not a failure to communicate. It is the realization that your voice was being used as a currency to buy your own exhaustion. By refusing to speak, you signal you no longer require their translation to exist. You are not just protecting yourself from being hurt. You are protecting the core identity you worked so hard to build, recognizing that needing them to understand you is a door you locked, and you are finally throwing away the key. The energy it takes to remain silent when every impulse in your body is screaming to defend yourself is monumental. It is the ultimate assertion of sovereignty. You are executing an elite biological protocol to save the organism. The guilt of leaving without an explanation is a phantom limb. The branch is dead. Let it drop. If someone is burning your house down, you do not sit inside and explain the chemistry of combustion to prove why fire is bad. You exit. You do not owe an arsonist an exit interview. The final audit is complete. The accounts are closed. The attention you previously wasted on decoding their behavior belongs to you now. When the perimeter is finally sealed, that conserved emotional capital has somewhere else to go. The energy previously spent decoding their behavior can quietly return to you. If something here landed, and your first instinct is to immediately text someone to justify your distance, stay with the silence 10 seconds longer than you want to. That is the whole ask. You will probably feel the urge to explain yourself again tomorrow. Not because you do not understand this, but because understanding and changing do not move at the same speed. And I keep wondering what would happen if you took all the energy you spend trying to be understood by people committed to misunderstanding you and simply kept it. The silence is just the sound of you staying.